welcome to this video. Yeah, this is the final coverage for the Gashimov Memorial Round 10, the last round of this tournament, and it sees a real decider at the end. Carlsen playing Caruana. They both have a +2 score. Caruana had lost one game and won 3. While Carlsen has this crazy tournament with 2 wins at the start, then 2 losses, then 2 wins again. Really weird. He beat Magnus and Nakamura 2 times, and but lost 2 games. And 1 game he lost to Caruana in the first turn of the tournament. So this is the by far most interesting pairing in the last round. Was it the most interesting game? Probably yes, so I'm going to cover it. The other 2 games ended in draws. We had Mamedyarov playing Kayakin. This was in fact a very sharp game in the English Hedgehog, or English double fianchetto. Also interesting. Not so interesting was Nakamura Rajabov, where quite surprisingly Rajabov played the Berlin. The Rui Lopez Berlin wall, and Nakamura never got anything going, and it was a draw after a real large number of moves, but there really never happened anything. The only remarkable thing was, I'll put this on the board just because it was very funny, I think. It's not so important really. Here, starting here, we are on move 24. Yeah, just briefly look at the whole position. It's a typical type of middle game position from the Berlin Wall. White has nothing much. And now look what black is doing. Rook h6, rook h5, rook h8, rook h5, rook h8. So have a look at the right hand side. Yeah, we've got 5 rook moves in a row. And just look on the right hand side what the rook is doing. Yeah. And only here, 25 moves later, with bishop d7, this rook stopped moving. This must be some sort of racket. 24 moves in a row with the same piece in a position where only very little has been exchanged. It's not like there is just one piece to move. There's the whole board to move. But it was all all the rook. Yeah, 25 moves. Okay, so just a funny episode. By the way, see, the pawn structure never changed, and move 77. I think it was 50. The 50 move rule was in effect. Move 27, the last pawn move, and 77 a draw. Yeah, no idea. There was simply nothing happening here. Okay, so Carlsen Caruana, the game of the round. d4, knight f3. Slightly curious. Why knight f3? Yeah, they all play c4 here, but Carlsen has an interesting idea. Let's see, he plays g3 here. Yeah, and here Caruana plays a quick c5. Yeah, Carlsen has delayed the move c4, and it's I think in most cases there is not much relevance to that. But here, after Caruana has played c5, it actually gets interesting, because here Carlsen didn't play the normal move, which would be c4, but he went for c3. Yeah, is this a passive move? It looks a bit meek, but it's not really a passive move. It has some quite original ideas. Black now must be very cautious in a way with this next move, because with c3, white shows his intention to take on c5. And in some cases, this would really be a pawn grab, where black is not so easily getting it back. I can show you a sample line. If black castles, for example, white can think of taking here. And it's not really clear that black will get this back. Knight a6, and then there's b4, and there's possibly bishop e3. Both moves are interesting. Yeah, something like this leads to a fairly weird position, but interesting position. So this is a very important moment. Should black allow the capture, or what should he do? The easiest solution in this position, but rejected by Caruana, is to just take here, after which white will recapture with the pawn, and then black plays the symmetrical move d5. This is a position that normally arises from a different move order, of course, and the move order would be something like that. Yeah, the Fianchetto-Grunfeld with an exchange on d5. But this has one very distinct problem for black. It's almost impossible to ever win. It is slightly, very slightly more comfortable for white. Black has excellent equalizing chances, but it's a very dry position, and maybe not the type of position that Caruana wanted to play. So he played d5, which is a very sharp move in a way, as it also allows the capture. And yeah, Carlsen just took it. And this is very sharp now. Black is not easily getting the pawn back. We can look at various ideas to get it back quickly. But white always has those covering moves. b4, bishop e3. It's not easy at all to get it back. Yeah, Caruana played castles first. Castles and a5. This is probably the right way to play. It's very difficult to get it back at all if you don't play a5. A move like knight a6, for example. Yeah, trying to take it. White will probably really play b4, and I'm absolutely not sure how black should get the pawn back. It's really not a great compensation here for this pawn. So a5 seems right to me, preventing or making it much more difficult to play b4 by white. Yeah, bishop b3 played. Yeah, developing this piece, possibly going here, covering c5, and yeah, now black must decide how to get the pawn back. And in fact, the interesting choice by Caruana was to not get the pawn back at all for the moment, which I found quite surprising. He played knight c6, just continuing to develop. It's not terribly bad, but I still was quite surprised to see that. For me, the really most normal move here would have been knight g4, attacking the bishop. Yeah, most likely the bishop needs to move. The most obvious choice, at least in my book, is bishop d4. And then I guess e5 is the only move that makes some sense. Now h3. Funny motif. Now we have this exchange here. And this is one possible line. At first you think, okay, well, this is what, 6 pawns, 5 pawns, isn't white a pawn up? Yes, but after something like knight a6, black has a very good compensation because of this very strong bishop on g7. He's got the bishop pair, and something like that is just very active for black. The good knight here, and especially this g7 bishop is very strong. So this should be quite a good compensation. Instead of bishop d4, of course, white has other moves. He can play bishop f4, which is not trying to exchange the bishop on g7 immediately. After that, black can go for knight a6 again, trying to get this back. It's a possible continuation, but knight e4 will win the pawn back. So this was an interesting alternative, and I thought really the better alternative. After knight c6, He's not getting the pawn back, and I really don't see a big compensation here. Queen c1 is a strong move. It prepares to centralize the rook here, set up this rook-queen opposition, possibly followed by c4. Yeah, this is logical. e5. Black needs to get some sort of play for the pawn. Rook d1 and queen e7. Okay, yeah, knight b5, heading for this very juicy square. Bishop e6. Knight g5. Yeah, this is a concrete play, attacking the bishop here. Bishop g4 and knight d6. This was very nicely played by Carlsen. This is a very strong knight, obviously, on d6. And here, is it in this moment? Yes, here Caruana played h6. At first I couldn't really understand what is this with bishop takes e2. Why didn't black take here? In fact, white has a very strong response. Rook takes d5. That's very strong, very strong. If black now takes the rook, after the simple bishop recapture, we see that absolutely all pieces are directed towards f7, and black cannot cover this. The only cover of f7 is knight to d8, after which queen c2 and queen e4 leads to an absolutely dominating position of white's pieces. It's quite a remarkable position. One of the most active piece placements that I can recall. Black is in a terrible shape. So this is why bishop takes e2 wasn't a really great idea, as rook takes d5 is simply possible. He played h6, kicking the knight away. And now king to h7. h3, bishop e6, and b4. Yeah, this is all fairly normal looking, I think. b4 is trying to support the extra pawn on c5. It gains space, and yeah, black basically only can exchange on b3 now. He cannot keep the position closed, allowing white this extra pawn without any sort of trouble. So he took there and played knight to e4. Yeah, and well, black's position is okay. He's not in a big trouble. The thing is, we are already talking about very small margins for error. Yeah, the position that black has does not tolerate any inaccurate play, and after knight d2, we get to a key position of the game. In fact, this is already this is the most important position of the game by far. Yeah, what should black do? White is obviously threatening to take on e4, winning a pawn with a decisive advantage. So black needs to do something with the e4 knight. He decided to play the move f5 after some relatively long thought, and it turns out that this is really not working out at all. The better move, it seems to be, is to take on d6, and after c takes d6, not to capture on d6, but to play queen d7. I'm pretty sure that he had calculated that. Queen takes, by the way, is very good for white after knight c4. This is just showing this nice rook placement on the d file. Yeah, here black has problems. It's just one possible line that is excellent for white. There are many others, but the general problem is that this combination of the knight coming here, the bishop coming here, and the pressure on d5 almost certainly will cost the d5 pawn. And white has an excellent position, really, on top of that. Yeah, but the point is, black does not need to take. He can play queen d7. And this type of move, you can easily overlook or completely judge wrongly. Wrongly, is this a word? Okay, misjudge. Yeah, what is black's idea? He wants to get the pawn back, of course, but he delays this, possibly getting it by bishop f8 to d6 or taking with the queen, but at a later stage. And in general, this seems to be okay for black. For example, just to continue the line of white, play something like this, covering the d6 pawn. Then black will play e4. This is a very important resource that frees up this bishop, and it blunts the g2 bishop. Yeah, it's only looking at this e4 pawn. And black can continue with moves like f5 later and maybe rook to c8, trying to attack the c5 bishop. It's probably some time until you get the pawn back, but black has quite a nice active position, I think, after that. This is probably what he should have done. He played f5, however, and this leads to huge trouble. Carlsen now took on e4 with the d2 knight, and here d takes e was played. Yeah, f takes e4 is not helping at all. The problem is that after queen b1, white is putting quite some pressure on the e4 pawn, which at the moment looks ridiculous. Why would you have a well, how should white ever take this pawn? Because there's always the cover from d5, but the problem is white is going to play c4 in the very near future, and after that the d pawn will move and then e4 drops. For example, let's just put a move on the board. Black is playing something like that. Then you'll play with c4, yeah, threatening to take, d4, bishop drops back, and now you see e4 is attacked 3 times, and you have absolutely no way to protect the pawn. Yeah, you can push forward, but this is also costs the pawn, and white is just winning here. At the end, he will always have the e4 square as well, so an excellent position. This is the problem with f takes e, and well, this is why he took with the d pawn. But this is obviously not ideal as well. Now white has 3 pawns against 1, and if black is just doing nothing, Carlsen played queen b1, preparing the b pawn push. If black is just doing nothing, white will convert the 3 pawns against 1 on the queen side. So it's absolutely mandatory for black to get active now on the king side. He's got this 5 against 4 majority and has most of his pieces on the king side. So this is where something should happen, and he immediately lashed out with f4, which ultimately does not net anything great, but there is not much room here for black to prepare any advances. Just for example, if you look at g5 as an example, there's g4, and black can basically resign. Yeah, look at this. So the f pawn now will move, and then you can simply take here with a check even. It's very tough for black to do anything great in terms of preparing the advances. So he just pushed f4, probably the right practical decision. Yeah, it's of course clear that white shouldn't take. This is immediately turning the tables. f3 coming, the bishop gets opened up. Just went to d2. And black played e3, of course, just pushing forward. Yeah, but white has a good reply. Just bishop to e1. Yeah, and this bishop is now covering these, not these, these captures. Yeah, there is not much that black can do. He needs to take at one point, or he can play these kind of waiting moves here, queen c1. By the way, instead of this, knight f5 was also very strong. After g takes, there is the strong move g4, and white also is much better. But Carlsen's move was good enough. He played queen c1, h5, and now he just took here. Yeah, of course, black took on g3 to really make it, yeah, or to sort of disturb the position a bit more by on the white side. But white still has very good pieces. Good knight, the rook is on the open file, and those bishops are also useful. Yeah, e4, just very strong play again. This is hanging, but it does not matter. Black took, rook d3. Yeah, the queen needs to return. Then he took on f5. This exactly was played. And after g takes f, which is the normal move, really, there was a strong reply e4. Yeah, and everything's now working. It's just like clockwork. All pieces are working harmoniously together. f5 is attacked now. Taking is completely ugly. So what should black do? If you advance, there is no real threat. This rook is covering f3. There's a possible knight f5 coming. Best move is probably queen d1, by the way. Attacking this and just asking black, okay, what are you going to do? I'm going to play this or this. And black has no active play, really. Yeah, takes.
Check.
The bishop takes. And queen e3. A strong move. Centralizing the queen. Intending maybe queen g3 to exchange them. Yeah, the whole position is really so problematic for black. Not because, I mean, this is an additional problem. He's a pawn down. But note that this bishop is not doing much. And the knight on c6 is also not doing much. Compare this to those pieces. They are just much more active. Yeah, the position also would be quite terrible for black if you, let's say, would add a pawn on a7, for example. Then this would be equal material, but the position is just about about as bad. It's only a slight consolation that you're not a pawn down, but the whole structure is the problem. The pawn structure combined with the pieces. Okay, queen e3. Rook f4 and the bishop g2 back. Yeah, we are already in a phase where Carlsen just needs to display good technical play, keeping everything together, not allowing any counterplay. And as you would expect from him, he's doing a great job. Here he attacks the pawn, so black needs to lose some time. And now the big queenside majority, 3 against 1, set into motion. Yeah, e4 is a desperate move, really, but understandable. Caruana wants to use his pieces, and this is in fact happening. The pieces get activated, but just by concrete play, Carlsen is keeping everything nicely together. Yeah, here, little tactical shot. Yeah, tactical is almost a bit too big a word, because it's just this pin that is used here. The rook is hanging, therefore black cannot take the pawn. Yeah, and the c-pawn is just very, very strong. There is really no way for black to put up any more resistance. Now c7 is a concrete idea. Yeah, this is again not working.
Check.
Yeah, now we
check.
See after a number of checks that the c-pawn is ready to promote. Yeah, Caruana continued for a couple of moves.
Check.
Getting in a spy check at least, but it's really not doing anything. Here he had to resign the game. Yeah, there only is one check left basically, which can always be answered by rook d1 blocking the check. So a decisive win for Carlsen in the final round, winning against his co-leader Caruana. Yeah, what can you really sum up for this game? It was a somewhat weird game in my book. Carlsen played this tricky opening move order that invites black to capture and play d5. But it also allows some creativity in a way, and Caruana he spent lots of time here, more than 20 minutes to play d5, and allowing this capture. Yeah, and after that we got a sharp, interesting game. Carlsen has managed again to get an interesting play without any big theory behind it. Yeah, what surprised me is that Caruana didn't go for knight g4 here, which looks like a pretty logical move to me, trying to force the recapture of the pawn. Instead he went here, and after that I think black needs to be very, very precise, and in the decisive moment here when we got to this spot, he made this mistake with f5, and after that it really seems that white is clearly better, and Carlsen just won a super smooth game. There's absolutely, I tried with the computer and everything, there is no improvement for black. It seems that he's really almost lost here after f5. Very very interesting development that black's position fell apart so quickly. So yeah, how to sum up this tournament? Tournament victory for Carlsen, who had a very weird middle of the tournament when he suddenly lost those 2 games in a row, which was really a bit of a shocker. But well, after that, the second turn, he won 3 games. Yeah, taking 2 full points again from Nakamura and Mamedyarov. Against Nakamura, he was in huge trouble, but he managed to win again. And he really played a great game when it counted. Right here at the end, he needed to win this game to be the sole winner of the event, and he managed in a pretty convincing fashion. Caruana really never had anything great in this game. So yeah, congrats to the world champion, who again is winning a tournament. Yeah, second place goes to Caruana with a +1 score. Certainly a disappointing end to the event, but still +1 is not bad. We got some players on 50%. Kayakin, by the way, played 10 draws. Not too exciting. He even had played a couple of draws in the event before that. I think the Russian team championships or something like that. He's on, I think, 18 draws in a row or something like that. I read it on Twitter, I believe. So quite weird. The only player who can really totally be unsatisfied is Mamedyarov, who really made a big minus score. So not a good event for him. Rajabov made a minor comeback here. He was in very good shape for a while, beating Carlsen, being on +1, but then he lost the game to trying to remember who it was that Rajabov lost against Caruana, I believe. Hope I'm not screwing this up. Yeah, well, Nakamura really also could have, yeah, he was close to a good tournament. He just needs to beat Carlsen once out of this great positions that he has, but he didn't manage. All right, I hope you enjoyed the coverage of this tournament. I think it was an interesting tournament, lots of fighting chess. Unfortunately, up until the very end of the event, there was no Benoni played to sort of honor the great Ruga Gashimov, whose memorial this tournament was, after all. Yeah, maybe they should think of doing those kind of events with let's say predefined openings. Just play the Benoni every game or something would be funny. So this way we didn't see any of his favorite opening. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what event it will be that I cover next on video. I can tell you that I won't cover the US championships, not because it's an uninteresting event. It is an interesting tournament. But the thing is, I'm away for about let's think about it, 9 or 10 days, playing a tournament myself. And yeah, I hope when I return that I can show some of my games that are hopefully interesting. If you want to follow this event, it starts in about, I think it's 11 days, played on the Mediterranean islands of Mallorca. favorite destination for German tourists. Yeah, and if you want to follow the event, there is a page for the tournament. You need to click a bit to get to it. The starting page is winterchess.com. Yeah, winterchess.com. They have a series of tournaments there. This is an open tournament starting, I think, May 11th, if I'm not mistaken. So this is where you can follow the results at least. And yeah, I hope I return with some interesting games. Okay, thanks for watching. I'll be back soon. Bye.